All right, Federico, we're back with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind, the show that's all about the picks, which is brought to you this week by Collide. Federico, how's it going?
I am doing fantastic, just getting ready for WWDC. What I did not get ready for is this episode of Unwind, because you told me
that's right.
Specifically, this time I have a surprise for you. You sit back, you do nothing, you just listen, have your mind blown, I believe is what you said. Don't do any research, don't prepare anything. I got this episode. Now, John told me this weeks ago, that there's this surprise coming on Unwind, and I've been waiting, and I guess this is it, right? This is like what you planned for. Okay.
Yeah, this is it. I hope I haven't oversold it, but if listeners remember, Federico kind of did this to me when he got himself a very nice gaming PC,
yes.
like I guess, I don't know if I call it miniaturized. It's a small form factor gaming PC.
It's a compact gaming. It's a compact gaming tower PC. Yes, it's a Corsair One.
Yes,
it's the Corsair One. Yeah.
Yes. And this episode's going to be a little bit about gaming too, Federico.
Interesting.
I'm going to send you an image in messages right now.
This is how,
and you can tell the listeners what you see. This is how we're going to do it. Here we go. It says delivered on my end.
What is this?
It says red now too.
What?
Do you know what that is?
Is this? Oh, no way. Huh. No.
Is
this the new Aya Neo?
Aya Neo Next Pro.
The Next Pro.
In bright white with orange triggers and buttons.
Oh my God.
And I've had this since mid-April, late April, about a little over a month.
Like a month? You've had this for a month?
I've had this for a solid month. And, it came in the midst of Automation April. And so my time with it in April was a little bit light, but I've been spending May really getting to know this device and play with it. And it is pretty fantastic. I
thought you had bought a pair of audiophile headphones. That was my theory.
Oh, that's a good guess too.
That was my theory.
That's a good guess because that has definitely crossed my mind in the past. But let me, I guess, explain for listeners what this is.
Yeah.
The Aya Neo. We've talked about the Aya Neo a little bit before. I think you have the 2021 model, is it?
2021 model. Yes, that's the one I have.
Right. And so these have been done through Indiegogo, I guess, since the beginning by this company called Aya Neo. And the Next Pro is the latest iteration of this, although they've since I got this announced like 2 or 3 more models. It's kind of crazy. But this one is basically a Windows PC in a handheld form factor. It's got a Windows 10 PC baked right into this thing, which allows you to obviously play PC games. So that's the whole point of it and why I got it. And what really intrigued me about it, I mean, the Steam Deck is probably why I ended up going down this path more than anything else, which I'll get to a little bit more later. But the Steam Deck is not available. I've got a reservation in for one, but I don't expect to get one until either very late this year or early next year. And I was just itching to really see what true PC games in a handheld form factor are like. And to me, this Federico is on the lines of an audiophile set of headphones in the sense that this is my biggest tech splurge in a while because it's something that's completely unnecessary and costs more than twice as much as the high-end Steam Deck. So it is not a cheap piece of kit. Aya Neo is a small company in China, and they don't have the pricing ability that Valve has with the Steam Deck. I think Valve's got that thing priced pretty low in order to help drive sales of games, but that's not the case with this, which is just a pure hardware sale. But I've had it for about a month, and I guess we should maybe talk a little bit about the specs and stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, so and also like, the specs and the games and what you've been doing for a month with this.
I know. All right, so first of all, I guess I'll just go straight to the specs, and I can talk a little bit maybe about what it's like using this thing. It's got an AMD Ryzen 7 5825U chip in it. That's the CPU. It's got 8 cores and 16 threads and runs between 2 and 4.5 gigahertz. So this is it's pretty good CPU. It's a CPU. It's not like the latest and greatest one that AMD makes, but it's pretty good. Then there for the GPU, for the graphics, it's AMD's Radeon Vega 8 integrated graphics, which I believe are like a generation ago old. That's probably the weakest point from a hardware standpoint of this device, is that it can't, and if you go through the reviews, you can see there's been a lot of written comparing this device to the Steam Deck, and it doesn't quite hold up in terms of frame rates compared to the Steam Deck because the graphics just aren't quite as beefy. It does, though, have a 2 terabyte SSD in it, which I kind of like. I like having lots of storage on everything because then I don't have to worry about managing it. I think, what is the top end on the Steam Deck? I think is it 512?
Yeah, 512,
gigabytes?
yes.
Or is it 512? Yeah. So this is 4 times that, basically. And I haven't come anywhere close to filling it up yet. It's also got 32 gigs of RAM. And it's a whopping 1.59 pounds, which is 720 grams. Now, this is big. It is big, but it's comfortable to hold. When I go back to the Switch after using the A Neo, I feel like the Switch is like, I don't know, like an iPod Touch compared to a big iPhone. It's the Switch just feels so thin and light compared to this, but it's not uncomfortable to hold. And in fact, I think in a lot of ways, it's more comfortable than the Switch because the Joy-Cons have a tendency to dig into my palms a little bit, whereas this is contoured a little bit better on the grips on the left and right. I mean, in terms of the way it looks, which I can put a picture in the show notes, I mean, it looks a lot like a Switch, but it's just a lot chunkier. It's thicker, and it's got a 7-inch touchscreen, which is 1280 by 800. I should have mentioned that as well. And then I guess the other thing is it's got fans. It's a Windows PC. It's funny when you first turn it on and press the button, the fans spin up to top speed for like
the 2021 model.
Does it do that on yours too? Yeah, for like 1 second or 2 seconds, and then it settles back down. But it's just letting you know that you're going to listen to fans, especially if you're using a game that's really pushing the system. But it's not like to the degree where it's super problematic. And a lot of times I'll use noise canceling headphones with this anyway, like my AirPods Pro connected by Bluetooth. So that's not a huge deal. As I think I said at the top, it runs Windows 10. You can install 11 if you want. I haven't bothered doing that yet because I'm not really using Windows for the most part that much, but may consider that down the road. It's got a touch sensor for the power button that allows you to, basically lock it so no one else can get onto it without having your fingerprint. The problem is it's certainly not nearly as good as the touch sensors on like an iPad. Or when we had them on the iPhone. It's just not like that at all. I'd say it works about 50% of the time, and the other 50% of the time I have to actually put in my numeric pin to unlock the device. So it's not fantastic in that way. And with the touchscreen, though, it's also got, it's got a keyboard that comes up. And there's also, besides being Windows, Neo has their own software called ASpace, which is a simplified UI that lets you navigate through your games, because what it does is it scans the system, finds the game files, looks up the artwork for the games, and creates a nice grid of everything you've got installed. That app also acts, it acts as a front end, but it also gives you stats on how much battery life you've got left, how fast your fans are spinning, how much the resources of the device are being used, and lets you switch different like power profiles to try to conserve battery life. Because on any device like this, running a true full on Windows with laptop parts, basically, the battery life isn't fantastic. But I think it's, they say it's like 4 or 5 hours, something like that for a lot of games, which is, it's okay. I mean, I don't tend to play for more than a couple of hours on this thing usually anyway. So I don't really mind that either. I don't know what else. They have shortcuts in this AS Space app too, which I really like because it lets you create shortcuts for things like putting it to sleep really quickly without having to like go down into Windows and that sort
So
of thing.
you've been using the AES Space game launcher as the UI to manage your games?
Yeah, I have for the most part, although I drop down into Windows when I want to go into like the Xbox app or Steam or something like that. So not exclusively, but it is where I tend to start, and I just find it a kind of nice front end. It's been a little buggy here and there, but it seems like it's gotten a lot better over the last month or so, and so I'm kind of liking it. I guess the other thing I would mention too are the controls, because the thumbsticks and the triggers and the shoulder buttons all use this Hall's effect, which is a magnetic technology to let you use those mechanical parts without having pieces inside the device rubbing together, which can cause wear and tear, as well as there can drift for things like thumbsticks. That has not been a problem at all for me, and it shouldn't be because of the Hall's effect tech that they're using in this. This episode of Mac Stories Unwind is brought to you by Collide. Collide sends employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Linux, Mac, and Windows devices right inside Slack. Collide is perfect for organizations that care deeply about compliance and security, but don't want to get there by locking down their devices to the point where they become unusable. Instead of frustrating your employees, Collide educates them about security and device management while directing them to fix important problems. Visit collide.com/MSU to sign up today. That's KOLIDE.com/MSU. Enter your email when prompted to receive your free Collide gift bundle after trial activation. At Collide, they know that end users are IT admins' most significant untapped resource and key to solving the most challenging to fix security issues, including instructing developers to set passphrases on unencrypted SSH keys, finding plain text two-factor backup codes and teaching end users how to store them securely, convincing employees to uninstall evil browser extensions that may sell their browser history. Those are just some of the many use cases not solved by locking down devices. You can try Collide with all of its features on an unlimited number of devices for free for 14 days with no credit card required. Try it out at collide.com/MSU. That's KOLIDE.com/MSU. Our thanks to Collide for their support of Mac Stories Unwind. That's about it. You got any questions yet?
No,
Federico?
I want to know about the games. I want to know like which games you've been playing and what's the performance been like, and if you find yourself sort of manually adjusting performance, because that's a doing that on a handheld gaming device like that. It's very different doing that on an Neo console versus the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck obviously doesn't run Windows; it runs SteamOS. And it's got a menu, like a built-in menu for quick settings to adjust the performance, like the thermal performance and the frame rate per second, like all that kind of stuff is built into the Steam Deck. On the ANU, you got to do it manually. And so I was curious to know the games you've been playing and the performance story for those games.
Yeah, so as a result of not having probably as convenient a way to adjust those things, I haven't been doing it a lot. I have changed the power profile from time to time, which does have an effect on performance. And, Windows has baked into it now. There's a mini app in there, that an Xbox helper app that allows you to display frame rates and things on screen while you're playing if you want. And I've fiddled around with that a little bit. But some examples of things I've been playing, I guess I've been pretty happy because I haven't really been pushing the limits super hard yet with like a 2022 release AAA game. I've been playing things like I have been playing Forza Horizon 5, which does quite well, and in all the reviews I've read says it's one of the games that performs best on this device compared to the Steam Deck. I've also been playing Tunic, things like Tunic, Hades, and Burnout Paradise Remastered. And those are all, Burnout's an older game. Tunic and Hades are both indie games that aren't going to push the system to the limits that AAA new title would. And I've dabbled in things like No Man's Sky too. But some of the games that I've been playing most recently have been new games like Electhead, which is a game that was just announced for the Switch not too long ago in their their indie showcase. It's a platformer that is pretty simple. Another one called Dwarf Romantic, which I don't know if you've seen this. It's on Steam. No. It's a village builder. You're laying down tiles that have elements on them of like they'll have little houses and trees and fields and streams and other things. And your score is based on how well you kind of match up the types of tiles next to each other, so that there's a nice balance between all of those elements. It's just one of those really chill builder games. It's nice to relax to. And it even has like a creative mode where you're not even really being scored. You're just kind of putting the tiles down and building a little village. And that one is one that I actually feel like is going to eventually come to iOS, because it would be much better with touch controls. It's a little bit fiddly with buttons and thumbsticks, but it works pretty well. Tunic too. I mean, Tunic's been a really nice game to play on this device. I get really nice performance from that as well.
So I want to go back to Forza Horizon 5 quickly. Like, what kind of performance have you been getting there? Have you been, like, do you see, I assume that on the ANEO, you do see the little indicator that shows you, like, frames per second and things like that? Like, the resolution of this console, so the ANEO, let's see, the ANEO Next Pro resolution. What is it? Is it a set?
It's 1280 by 800.
Okay, so 1280 by 800. Can you hit 60 frames per second on Forza?
No, I don't believe so. I haven't looked at the frame rates on this one in a while since I played it. Because I don't usually have those on by default, and it's not built into the ANEO, I don't believe. When I've wanted to check that, I've been using one of the Xbox apps that comes with Windows to do that and have it pinned in the corner of the screen. So no, I'm not getting that. But it's, in the 45-ish, I think, if I recall correctly.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for Forza.
It's not too bad. Not too bad. And, then as I said, one of the other things I've been dabbling in games so far, because I just wanted to get a cross section to see what it was like to play these different things. And I also have been just checking out whether, things like Xbox Cloud gaming to see how it works on this. I actually think I prefer the cloud streaming of games from Xbox on the iPhone more than anything else. I think I just like that the iPhone screen isn't as big, but since it's OLED, it just looks really great. And if you have a good connection, I think it's just a better experience on an iPhone than on this. Plus the iPhone's lighter. And then, I've dug into Steam a little bit, but mostly those, Steam games, just like the Game Pass PC games, those you just download them locally, and then I can use ASpace to catalog them all and keep them in a grid. Do you use that software at all, or do you go at it a different way?
Which one?
The ASpace.
No.
Is that available?
Yeah, it is,
yours?
But I always prefer to launch games manually from the desktop or from Steam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was. I think the ASpace software got a major update a few weeks ago. That I think, I think it made things a lot better. When I last tried it months ago, it was kind of janky and I didn't really like it. So I prefer to launch games manually from the desktop. Yeah. But I can tell you that since I got my Steam Deck, I haven't touched my ANEO at all. These are despite the fact that the form factors may be similar, they are very different consoles. And like the ANEO is very much a PC, right? And the Steam Deck, it's a Steam machine. That's what it is. And I mean, sure, you can install Windows on it if you want to, but it's not really recommended. And you can switch back to desktop mode, but it's by and large a Steam device. Interesting. Have you played with emulation at all?
I have not. That's one area that I have not gotten into yet, and I plan to, because I'm going to look to you for some tips on that and what to use there. I mean, you've got You've been using Dolphin for Windows, right, on your gaming PC?
Yeah, you gotta use Dolphin. You gotta use Dolphin, and if you can, my recommendation would be that you do the symlinks for the save folder of your Dolphin emulator. You do symlinks in Dropbox. That way, you can keep those save files in sync between devices, right? So, for example, I can pick up, I actually at the moment my favorite device to play with Dolphin emulator is my MacBook Pro, just because it sits in front of me and it runs at 5K 60 frames per second with HD textures, no problem. And I know how to use Dropbox on the Mac. I know how to use Finder, and it's very easy. But the idea is, if you keep those configuration files, so your save files, maybe your screenshots even, and if you symlink them to Dropbox, that way you can pick up Dolphin on a Linux machine with Dropbox installed, or on a Windows machine with Dropbox installed. That's the idea. But yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Dolphin for Windows, it's amazing emulator. You could also consider on the IA Neo. You have a Nintendo Switch, so I was gonna say Yuzu. Yuzu is a Nintendo Switch emulator, but you do have a Nintendo Switch. You could try. What's the name of the? Hold on. Let's see. Cemu. Cemu. It's CEMU. It's a Wii U emulator. You could try that on Windows, and that would allow you to play those remaining Wii U titles that haven't made it to recent consoles, like Wind Waker HD, for example, or Twilight Princess HD. So Cemu is a Wii U emulator. And then I guess, there's a long list of emulators that you can put on a portable device like that. PSPPP, it's a PSP emulator, or you can do Citra. Citra, it's SETRA. It's a Nintendo DS emulator, so you could try that. I think you can potentially flip your ANU to portrait and play with Citra like that, with the two screens, one above the other. Yeah, there's but definitely start with Dolphin. So you can do GameCube emulation. And I was able to upscale Dolphin, to 4K on my 2021 ANU. There's actually no reason to do that, because it's a 1280 by 800 display, so you don't see those.
Right.
Just upscale it for the resolution that makes sense for the display, and then invest resources into HD textures. Like, that's the approach, right? Because you want to upscale, but then you also want to not just upscale, not just the polygons, but also the textures in the game. So yeah, start there.
Right.
Link it with Dropbox and make sure to map your controls. And that should be pretty easy to do. And I have another question for you. Have you tried to play in docked mode at all? Or is it just a portable console?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say. For me, it really has become that. I did actually hook it up to the C-Force display at one point, and I don't know, it wasn't a great experience. It struggled with it. It really got hot, and the fans started going, and I don't know, it just felt like more trouble than it was worth to do it. So I'm going to use it exclusively as a handheld device. I did hook up a Logitech keyboard that I had, a spare one, as well as a cheap mouse, because for getting some of this software installed, it's just much easier to have a keyboard and mouse to do that, because controlling the pointer with thumbsticks is a little frustrating at times. There are, you get into an app, and Windows does a pretty good job of letting those controllers control the mouse, but it's just not the same. It struggles with things like scrolling long pages and things like that, because it's not really understanding where the focus should be and what is scrolling. Instead, it just kind of stays at whatever was previously selected. I've seen that in the Xbox app a lot, where there'll be a game selected in the sidebar, and I want to scroll through a list of games, but it won't scroll. It'll just, if I try to do anything, it'll just select the game that's in the sidebar. So haven't been super happy with that kind of navigation, but that's in part why I've been using the AS Space app. Now, I guess the other thing I tried that wasn't working particularly well was the Sony PS Remote Windows app. It just refuses to to acknowledge the controllers on the, to acknowledge the thumbsticks or the buttons or anything like that. And I did find some Windows apps that can be installed that should allow that to get set up, but I just haven't had the time to really fiddle with that yet because I'm not sure remote play with the PS5 is really what I want to do on this machine either. I really want it for the PC games. I want it for things like games that are on Steam that I can't get anywhere else yet, that I can get a nice early look at. I want it for the games that are part of Game Pass on the Xbox. And so far, that's been more than enough for me.
Very nice. I am pleasantly surprised by all of this. I think you made a good choice.
Thanks. Death's Door is another game I'm about to start digging into. I've got like 30 games downloaded here, Federico. Mostly, it's like old favorites. This is where I found out about Turnip Boy. Remember, I wrote about Turnip Boy in Mac Stories Weekly last week because it came out on iOS, but it came out on Game Pass a few weeks before. So this is really where I've been playing most of my Tunic too. When I've been talking to you about Tunic here and there, it's mostly been played on this device and not on the Xbox itself. All right, Federico. I hope you were surprised. It wasn't. Did I blow your mind, Federico? Probably not entirely, but
well, I think I was very surprised. Like I was definitely not expecting this. So yeah, it's maybe like a semi mind blown, scenario. Like mind blown would have been, I don't know, I bought a $10,000, setup for like my gaming, like a gaming PC or something. But like,
yes.
But I also was not expecting this at all. So I was totally thinking about headphones. So yeah, you got me there. I was surprised after all.
Well, I actually backed and unbacked this device more than once. I went back and forth an awful lot. And it was very funny that when I finally decided to go for it, a day or two later, you told me that you had decided not to go for it, which I thought was kind of interesting. But in any event, that's my big surprise. That's it for this episode of Mac Stories Unwind. I want to thank our sponsor again, and that is Collide. You can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico is on Twitter and Instagram, where he's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next Friday, Federico.
Ciao, John.